This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosts Civil War reenactments, ATV rodeos, mud bogs, diesel truck pulls, and high school rodeo finals. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome to the two newest members of the General Assembly. We're delighted to have you all on This Week in Richmond as the time the session is beginning. The more senior one, elected a few months earlier, Delegate Rob Krupicka from Alexandria, also representing a part of Arlington and Fairfax County. Delegate Daun Hester, representing a portion of the city of Norfolk. So thank you both. And what we want you to tell our viewers is what are some issues that you're going to be working on? What are some issues that are important to your constituents and you think are important to people around the state? So I went to you first, so let me go to Delegate Hester to start.
Education is always my primary focus. What we can do to make sure that we're taking care of our young people and our young adults. K through higher education is important, making sure that our universities have the things that they need. But in public education, because there's so many struggles going around the state, we have to make sure that, I want us to be the first in everything as far as education is concerned, as it relates to our children and our public school system. So we want it to be the best that it can be. So that's my primary focus.
Excellent, excellent. Dr. Krupicka?
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of similarities. I am a former member of the State Board of Education, so education is certainly front and center for me, and I'm planning to put forward about 3 or 4, maybe 5 bills on education, so it's certainly something that's important to me. And one of the things that's most acute in my view is the achievement challenges we have in the state with kids who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, low-income backgrounds. Virginia is a fantastic state for education, but when you look at the kids who come from families who don't maybe have as much as others, those are the kids who typically struggle the most, and that's really where the greatest opportunity for us as a state to create that world-class education system that Delegate Hester talked about. It's not just a great thing, an important thing for those kids and their families, but it's, in my view, the number one kind of Achilles heel in our economic system. When those kids are successful in school and they graduate and they go on to get jobs, it raises the economy for all of us and makes everyone's community stronger.
The governor's calling this year the year of the teacher, the year of education. So I suppose there are going to be many different education issues out there for you all to wrestle with.
Very much so. Not only pay increases for teachers, which is primary on their plate, but also how we're assessing schools. There's a conversation about another grading system for our schools. So I think there'll be great debate about what we should do to move forward.
Yeah, I'm excited about that conversation. I think it's a really important one. And I think the assessment conversation is particularly important for 2 reasons. I think we want to create an assessment system in the state that makes it easy for parents to understand what's happening in their schools and how their schools are performing, so that the community can kind of roll their sleeves up and help their schools be successful. Secondly, the state's current accreditation system doesn't put a lot of weight on the performance of kids who come from a variety of backgrounds, especially low-income backgrounds. And I'd like to see us make sure that when we look at how we evaluate our schools, that we are making sure that they are focused on the performance of every kid in our state, and that should be a really high priority. So I think that's going to be a really important conversation. Funding is always really critical, and I couldn't talk about education without saying I think preschool has to be front and center as part of any education reform exercise. You know, we know that if kids show up for kindergarten with a good early childhood education from their family or their church or from their local preschool, they're going to be better positioned to be successful in school than the kids who miss that opportunity.
Delegate Hester just elected December 18th.
Yes.
And local government has been part of your background too. So
yes, both of us, but 14 years on the Norfolk City Council. And so, you know, bringing that knowledge and especially what things impact us when decisions are made here at the state level. And it's very important that we make sure that what we ask our localities to do, they're able to do all across the state. And that's real important. So when we mandate certain things, we need to make sure that we're either providing the funding and resources or that there's a collaboration between the localities and the state and what's being asked of us to do.
You know, one of the things that we hear a lot around the Capitol, and I'm sure you've heard it perhaps even more in the localities, is unfunded mandates.
Yes.
That are placed at times on localities. So it's a challenge to see that they are funded and funded adequately.
Right. Well, education is a big part of that, you know, we don't fund adequately from the state level, but yet we continue to ask for a great deal of things of our schools and our school districts. And so we have to figure out how we're going to mirror those things so that we do create the best system that we can.
Yeah. Be helpful to our viewers to know that we're having this conversation 2 days before the session convenes. They'll be seeing it 2 or 3 days after the session is convened, and so don't suppose you can tell them now what committees you'll be on, but you'll be finding that out soon.
Finding out on Wednesday. I've only asked for one, and that's education.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll be happy with whatever committee I get. So I expect there will be a lot of work to do no matter where I am.
Yes, yes. Well, great deal of information on education. Thank you all for telling our viewers about that. Any other issue that maybe comes in like second on your list for 2013 that you'll be interested in working on, whether or not you're introducing bills that you'll be working on?
In the Hampton Roads area, transportation is a major topic of what we're going to do with our roads and how we're going to fund them. And you know, we have so many expansion opportunities that we need in Hampton Roads in order to keep our ports operating properly and moving containers across the state and throughout, you know, the East Coast and beyond. And so transportation is a big issue for our region.
Yeah, I think we both share that. And we're both part of that golden crescent that represents one of the real key economic areas of the state. And both of us live in regions of the state that are really hamstrung by the lack of transportation investment we're making. It's something that we have to fix. I mean, it's affecting my local economy every day. I know it's affecting Delegate Hester's local economy, and I think it has to be one of the top priorities of anything we look at. In addition to transportation, and I actually have one initiative on transportation to help with a local metro we're trying to build in Alexandria, Virginia, which is a big economic opportunity for that area, but also for the state. I think public safety is going to be something that's talked about a lot this year. Issues like how we deal with mental health issues in the state, how we deal with violent crime in the state in light of some of the tragedies we've seen in Virginia as well as across the country. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation about that. And one of the initiatives I'm working on is something to increase the number of trainers we have in the state to do mental health first aid training, which is a proven practice that is shown to give people kind of the tools to identify a problem before it potentially festers into something much worse. We should be training our teachers, we should be training community leaders, folks in businesses, to give them the ability to identify mental health issues, potentially severe ones that could lead to dangerous circumstances well before anything bad happens, and in a time when you can get folks the kind of intervention and support they need to work through whatever issues they have.
Anything else that you see? Education, transportation, those will probably take up most of your time.
They will take up most of my time.
Yes. And let me ask you on transportation. We've heard some talk in the last few weeks about the possibility of something being on a referendum. Have you thought about that, or have you heard from any of your constituents? You know, there have been referendums in the past that pertain to regional transportation initiatives that haven't gone that well. But do you think it should be an up or down vote, or would you reflect on whether you think that's something that the voters ought to have a chance to vote on?
Well, you always want to give your constituents an opportunity to provide information and input, always. But whether we need a referendum, I haven't read all of the legislation, and I really need to do that to see how it is going to be presented. But from the ones that I've heard from, they just said, you all make a decision. You all know what the issues are. Just go ahead, because we don't want to put it off again until November. They want us to decide something now so that they know which way we're going, especially for our business community and the economy. You know, they're just ready for us to do something.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think folks look to us to make a decision. I mean, I think I was elected to make a decision. I think Delegate Hester was elected to make a decision on transportation issues. I think given the incredibly poor position we are from a transportation funding standpoint as a state, we need to look at all options, and I'm certainly open to looking at all options. But my first preference is that the General Assembly make the hard choices we need to make to properly fund our transportation system. If there's a component of a local option in something, as a local government official, I've always supported local options when they were adequate and I thought fair to my constituents, and I'm willing to do that again. But I think the first priority has to be the state doing its fair share, because that's really where we've been falling behind.
Delegate Hester, Delegate Krupicka, thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond. Delighted to have you on. Sworn in, you're already members of the House, but soon to be taking up the House business, and we look forward to later in the year having a chance to sit down and talk with you again and reflect on how the session went. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I figure we'll be doing lots of listening.
Welcome back to This Week in Richmond, and a special welcome to Delegate Israel O'Quinn. Just before you've come on, we heard from two of your new colleagues, one from far northern Virginia and one from southeast Virginia, so we're glad now to be covering the state and have you from Bristol and Washington County and that area, and coming all the way over to the city of Galax, as we were saying, a really large geographic district.
It really is. It's a very large district. My door's about 360 miles from the state capital, so it's a nice little drive up the interstate.
And I think you were saying that about 100 or more of those miles to get to the end of your district.
Absolutely, it's about 120 miles that you have to travel to get from end to end. But that's what you get in a rural district, and I enjoy representing it nonetheless.
Well, we're delighted to have you on to talk with not only the viewers back in the Southwest, but the viewers around the state about issues that you see that are going to be important to you and important to your constituents this session. Reminding our viewers, you and I are having a conversation 2 days before the session is gavelled in.
Right.
They're seeing it a couple of days after the session has started. So with that in mind, what are some of the issues that you think are going to be some significant issues this session?
Yeah, I think that if you want to talk about specific issues for Southwest Virginia, and particularly for the 5th House District, I think you have to look no further than Governor McDonnell's budget amendments, and that he included money to open the River North Correctional Facility in Grayson County, Virginia. That's something that, as you well know, that Delegate Carrico, now Senator Carrico, fought that fight for several years now, and then I've been in the fray with him for the last year and a half or so, and we are just thrilled that the governor has included that money and that the Department of Corrections is ready to move forward with a plan to open that prison. It's between 3 and 350 brand new jobs, good jobs that people have taken on their own initiative, taken classes at community colleges and law enforcement academies and other places to be qualified to work there. And really just remarkable that we're going to be able to finally put those people to work and open that prison that's been sitting there mothballed for the last couple of years.
You know, that many jobs would make headlines in any part of the Commonwealth.
Right.
But particularly in the Southwest with the unemployment such as it is, that is a major number.
You're exactly right. And of course our unemployment rate in Southwest Virginia has been a little stagnant over the last 2 to 3 years, perhaps even a little longer in specific counties. But being able to add 350 jobs in the Twin County region, which is kind of really Galax, Grayson, and Carroll area, just going to be a huge, huge lick, and really, really looking forward to getting the doors open. And of course, then being the recipient of the ancillary benefits that come from having a facility like that in your area that people will ultimately come to for one reason or another.
There are other issues that don't really stack up as high as that one on the
Right.
list, but other issues that you've worked on in the past, and then the session coming up. What are some of the other, perhaps some of the challenging ones that you see that you and your colleagues are facing?
I think that anything and everything related to the economy and specifically to jobs for Southwest Virginians is first and foremost on the legislative agenda of the entire Southwest delegation. You can't underestimate how important it is to get that unemployment rate down and to put Southwest Virginians back to work. And that's what we try to stay focused on every single day, whether we're in session or out of session, trying to recruit employers, trying to retain the ones that we have, working so that employers can expand and add people to the payroll. And we've had some successes. We've had some very near misses, and whatever we can do to try to get the framework in place and the regulatory environment set so that businesses in Southwest Virginia can grow and flourish is what we're going to be supportive of. And as you know, the Southwest delegation is a very tight-knit group. When we come to Richmond, we kind of from the New River Valley back, we have a majority of Republicans representing that area now, but we work very well with all the members of our delegation. And as some of our members are fond of saying, we have to circle the wagons when we get to Richmond. And so we really work together and work very hard for Southwest Virginia.
Now, while it's not a part of your district, it moves on over into some of your colleagues' districts. But what about coal? There seems to be some indication that maybe coal is, I don't want to say coming back because it never disappeared,
Right.
but still maybe on the rebound some.
Yeah. Coal is a crucial part not only of American energy independence, but also the economy of Southwest Virginia. And as you know, we have thousands of coal miners who work directly in the coal industry. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of other indirect coal jobs, whether they be in transportation or whether they be in concrete or mining belts or mining machinery or just parts and equipment. The energy industry in Southwest Virginia is huge. If you add coal and natural gas together, the economy in Southwest Virginia just can't do without it. And the best part is that it also keeps the lights on. And there are some people who will criticize coal from time to time, but they never criticize electricity use. And I think that's something that people sometimes lose focus of. Is that coal is not only a huge economic driver, but the ripple effect of coal is felt all across the country.
As you talk about part of that ripple effect with all the other industries connected with it, some of them probably do fall in your district and some of your colleagues, while you're not right in the area where the coal is being mined. So that's going to be...
Yeah, and I can tell you for a fact that of course, we're all citizen legislators, and I work for Food City, a retail grocery chain. And I can tell you that when coal is down, retail sales of every kind are down as well, because when you have less discretionary income, people are spending less money, and they're making tougher decisions, and they're tightening up their belts and living within their budgets very strictly. And so it's not just necessarily in the coal industry. If it relates to anything that sales tax can be collected off of, believe me, it goes down when coal goes down.
You're a member of the Coal and Energy Commission, and just today, on this Monday as we're having the conversation, you all had a meeting.
Yeah.
And one of your major issues, if not the issue, was the question of uranium mining. And while our viewers who will be seeing this program will have already heard some of the news, but flesh it out a bit and tell them how that discussion went and how you and your colleagues, what did you decide about the possible future of uranium mining in Virginia?
Yeah, well, over a very long period of time, really probably approaching 3 years before I ever got to the General Assembly, there was discussion about whether the moratorium, which was put in place in 1982, should be lifted on the mining and milling of uranium. It has been discussed ad nauseum, and lots of people for and lots of people against, as with lots of other contentious issues. And it's been interesting to hear the discourse. And today, what we ended up doing was there was a motion by Senator John Watkins, and his motion essentially said that we would move forward with a bill, the bill that he intends to put in, to put the regulatory framework in place to even allow for the potential of uranium mining and milling. And the mining and milling could be dealt with separately. As of right now, I think they're going to be dealt with together, but could be dealt with separately. Essentially, what the Coal and Energy Commission approved today was the ability to further continue the conversation. There will still be public comment. There will still be lots of discourse on the issue. There will still be lots of opportunities for people to weigh in for and against. And we certainly by no means have approved uranium mining. However, I think that the overarching sentiment of the Coal and Energy Commission today was that we at least move forward with this discussion so that it does move us another step closer to energy independence in the United States, because uranium, the vast majority of it comes from areas like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and places that aren't necessarily models of geopolitical stability, if you will. And I don't think that we need to be reliant upon governments like that for our energy future in the United States. And for everyone who's an all of the above energy person, and there are lots of them out there, Republican and Democrat alike, I think that you have to consider nuclear energy as part of that solution.
So I could ask Senator Watkins a question, but since you're sitting here and we're talking, do you understand that will his bill be lifting the moratorium, or will that be a separate matter, or is the bill essentially to start some regulations?
The bill is to, as I understand it, it will go through, it'll start in Senate Commerce and Labor, and it is designed to begin constructing what the regulatory framework would look like. Now, a lot of the rough framework, the skeletal framework, has been dealt with in the Governor's Uranium Working Group. I suspect that should that bill pass, that a lot of the recommendations will come directly from that working group, which has had input from people all over the world. They've consulted with people in Canada and other places as well as folks in the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the EPA, DEQ, etc. And I think that you're going to see the bill focus more on that framework. But not having seen the bill specifically, I can't tell you if the moratorium lift is in there or not.
Right. Because there's been some discussion that it might just be setting up the regulatory framework without doing the other. So our viewers who have interest and your constituents who have interest will be certainly staying tuned to see just precisely what's in the bill.
Sure.
In our closing couple of minutes, transportation, education, any other issue that you see out there that you're going to be, as a General Assembly, spending some time wrestling with?
I think that you've certainly hit on two good ones, education and transportation, things that are very important to Virginians, but also specifically important to Southwest Virginians, where I come from. And for us, we have to focus quite a bit of time and energy on maintaining and making our public schools as good as we can. In the Richmond area and others, have lots of options for private schooling and Christian schooling and many options. We typically have a community public school that folks attend, and so we really focus really hard on making our public schools as good as we possibly can. I'm a product of Virginia Public Schools, and want to see Southwest Virginia Public Schools be as good as they can be. Transportation, of course, is one of those that, if you squeeze the balloon somewhere, air pops out somewhere else. And our transportation needs are very different from other parts of Virginia. And I know last year we had a discussion in one of the committees that I was in where Northern Virginia needed additional HOV lanes and hot lanes because they were being overused and were being torn up essentially from the amount of use. Yes. Whereas in Hampton Roads, we were looking at ways that they potentially wanted to incentivize people to actually get on those lanes and use them. They were being underutilized. And in Southwest Virginia, I can tell you in the 5th House District, we have hundreds and hundreds of miles of unpaved secondary roads. And we do have Interstate 81 and 77 that runs through Southwest Virginia. You have Interstate 26 and 40 that are very close. So we kind of are a crossroads of sorts, and we do have interstate-related traffic issues. But we also have a lot of issues with bridges and rural roads, and it's just a different set of transportation problems. But we have to get in there and be in the debate nonetheless.
Delegate Quinn, thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond
Thank
and
you.
for informing our viewers. We look forward to having a conversation with you again, perhaps after the session.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Alpha Natural Resources, an energy company dedicated to respecting the land. Alpha Natural Resources, we power the world through the energy of our people. Everywhere there are lighting poles, there's one more opportunity to save money. Intelligent Illuminations provides cost-effective wireless lighting solutions for roadway or area outdoor lights. Kanawha Valley Arena, Virginia's cowboy town, hosts Civil War reenactments, ATV rodeos, mud bogs, diesel truck pulls, and high school rodeo finals. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.